into the pool.
Back in 2016, I had a call from a good friend, Mark Jones, to assist him in the making of a music video by the David Cross Band. I had long been an admirer of the progressive rock band King Crimson, and as this was an offshoot of that band, I immediately jumped at the opportunity. With the help of some extra footage, let us join with Mark as he gives us a fascinating insight into the making of this video. And what's more, we get to see the final cut at the end.
Because progressive rock isn't so mainstream as regular pop, there's not so much call for like videos or those form of promotional materials. So what the David Cross Band's going for this time is to sort of spread their wings and go into multimedia. So I was one of the people hired to produce a video to go with one of the launch songs, The Pool. We filmed in the church in Findon Village, which is St John the Baptist Church. It's an 11th century building. It's very gorgeous. We all arrived by about 1:45. It was absolutely pouring down with rain. Is it Helena was going to let us in at 10 o'clock. We got soaking wet. We all dashed the equipment in as fast as we possibly could. Hey, all right, Howard. And then you've got that, what I call ordered chaos. You know what you want to do, but you've got all this kit everywhere, and you need to assemble any props. We had a cinema screen, we had a projector, we had a computer, we had a digital projector, which was projecting some footage that had been treated. The main guitarist and one of the producers is Mick Paul. And Mick is a very dear friend of mine, and when he said, "Mark, do you think you'll be able to help out with a video?" I said, "Of course I can." All the other band members were tied up with other projects, so no one would be free for the video shoot bar the lead singer Ginian, which set us a challenge. So I turned to my chums. There's David Clark of DVC, who enjoys filming and also his skills with doing special effects. There's Ashley Neil Fuller, who's just quite a fun, hands-on, creative guy, and he's good to have around to help film stuff and just come up with ideas as we go. And my dear sound guy and tech chap, Stephen Simpson, who came along with his 1950s film projector, because I created this story of Ginian looking back at some historical footage of him and the band from years past to reminisce. I asked Stephen if we could have an old style projector, so Steve dug out this projector and he came along working that. Plus also Steve was in charge of playing back the music for Ginian to sing along to as we set up the shots and so forth.
So if you watch the video, in the background you have a video from a concert, which was a long track. That the original track's about 10 minutes, and they were doing a shorter version, which they called the radio edit, which is the one we did the video to. So Steve had actually taken the concert footage and cut it down to match the audio that we were doing. So that sort of plays in the background, and the idea is our character is watching this on a projector. So Stephen had done that, and then he came along on the day and he was helping to play the music so the guy could mime to it. So most of the footage was done by myself and Mark. We were using 4K GH4 cameras. A lot of running around and no tripods or anything. It was all shoot on the hoof and just focus and get some nice shots. And then we had you and Ashley were both doing other ordinary cameras, ABC, HD cameras, and we used some of those shots as well, which are sprinkled in liberally amongst it. There's one shot which has an effect on that nobody will notice, which is where the singer, Ginian, actually leans into a reflective panel, which we actually found in the church. And we thought, oh, that's a nice shot, and we put it in there. And at the very last minute before we sent it off, I noticed that in the reflection of the panel, Mark was suddenly dancing away in the background, which kind of destroyed the mood. So I had to do a quick effect on that just to get rid of Mark, and That was just a little bit of motion tracking and painting him out, basically.
Cheers, my name is Gillian Wild, and we're here today to do a video for The Pool, which is one of the songs off of the Sign of the Crow album. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be really good fun. We're in this really lovely old church. We're just waiting for David Cross, so I'm just going to go and get kitted up and put all my stuff on, my lovely top hat, and we'll see how it goes.
The story to The Pool is one about change. It's about life and death and hope, and it was written to mean deep, meaningful things to different people, and mainly about this change thing. And Gillian, who is the lead singer of the band, has been the only lead singer to actually have The Pool, and to him that's his song. He was joined the band, The Pool was written, so he feels quite a personal connection to that song. And the lyrics to the song he finds very personal to him, about change, about so forth.
The song's about change and about the exploration of the change and leaving something behind and going into something new, which we all do at certain times in our lives. And I'm going through a kind of a transition myself personally at the moment. So it's very personal to me, but the Pool is a song about transformation and change.
Even though we're filming in a church and being as respectful as we possibly can, people can read whatever they wish into the story, bar the simple fact you have a person reminiscing over some old footage of his dear friends, and at the end of the song he makes the choice to leave that place and journey to the next life, or its next destination. So that's it. There's an example of one of the special effects, which is a kind of stretched blowout of the colours, and you can manipulate and change it. Those are achieved by a plugin. There's a program called Hit Films, which can do all the special, like After Effects, it can do all these flashy effects, you know, where you can play with the colours, or you can add in snow or rain, and you can do different things with it. And that was literally a lighting effect called Gleam, basically. And again, it was used as a kind of transitional effect, because if you look here, the shot I've used it is, you've got go back, you've got Gillian standing next to the projector, and we crossfade to the screen with the old Gillian singing on the screen. We crossfade to him. We come back into the real world with Gillian singing the first phrases of the song, and then when we go into the old video, I just like the idea of light sort of sucking us into the cinema screen, and then we are into the video and we're there 10 years in the past, that sort of thing. 2011 I filmed the David Cross Band filming at a venue in London called Peel, and this footage never went anywhere because they didn't like the way the sound mix came out of the sound desk at the venue, so the stuff was never used. And it was one of the first times The Pool had been played live, and what happened was, that was it, end of story. But then when this project came along and I was told I had nothing bar the lead singer, I then decided to resurrect this old footage. I passed it to Stephen, because they'd re-edited the Pool music slightly differently. We took that footage and in Edius time mapped it. Basically we compressed or stretched time to make the visuals match the new version of the song. And then Stephen had the notion, I said we wanted to make it look old, so Stephen gave it the cine look effect. He thankfully had some cine film. He got some clean cine film which has had scratches and dirt on it, filmed that so it was clear, overlaid all the scratches and the hairs and the gates over the footage that he had recut and re-time mapped to match the radio edit of The Pool, the one that's on the album, the one that's being released to the public. So we now had our old footage that the Ginian character, our kind of Mad Max apocalypse survivor, was going to watch back and reminisce. So that's our story, and we had him walking around the church, and then at the 11th hour the night before, David Cross, who's obviously the leader of the band, said that he was available to come down as well. Initially he just wanted to have a bit part in it. He said, I can maybe be a face in the crowd, until I reminded him that there was no crowds because it was set in the apocalypse. We've only got one survivor, so there's no crowds, but he could join him. Being in the church, he could either be part of Ginian's thoughts of reminiscing, or he could be an ethereal being, or it could be anything, because again, trying to keep an interpretation open, bar the main meanings and messages of the song, which is hope, change, life, death, moving on. One doesn't want to ram down any form of beliefs or whatever down other people's throats, but leave things open to interpretations.
Today I'm here taking part in a video which we're putting together to try and portray a track that's at the heart of the Sign of the Crow, which is our new album. This track was meant to be timeless. It was written with that view, and there's always a moment just before you perform a track on stage where you suddenly know whether it's going to work. It's just that moment before you play. This one we knew as soon as we were on stage this was going to work, and every time we've played it, it's been a magical moment. So we're trying to do a magical video that somehow matches that. Whenever we talk about it between us, this track actually means very different things to each one of us. It's something to do with transformation, it's something to do with the human condition, it's something to do with life, death. It means whatever you want it to mean. But it's what we're trying to achieve here today is to try and get some images and some feelings that come somewhere near to portraying the strength of feeling that we have in this track. This track is called The Pool.
What I'm using here is a editing program called Edius, and what Edius is like a poor man's version. No, it's not. It's the best kept secret in editing. Everyone goes for Premiere or Final Cut Pro, that sort of thing, all the big names, but Edius here, which is from Grass Valley, is a superb editing tool. It doesn't crash, it's very stable, and unlike the Microsoft stuff, you don't have to be on the cloud to make it work and stuff, or have the updates and everything. So as you can see here, we've got black and white, but there's a hint of colour, which is the elaborate bandana around the top hat. Again, it's just an image thing really, initially, having Ginian while singing and then cutting out of the church. I thought everything outside of the church should be a contrast to interior, so I wanted black and white, but I just didn't want plain old black and white, so we used a technique where most editing programs have this, and what you do is you can bring in chrominance and you can key a colour by selecting the pink. It won't quite work on this because we've already done it, but yeah, so you can pick this colour pink, and then if you go back to the colour luminance, you can fiddle with this. You can drop all the colours out but bar the one that you've keyed in, so you get a black and white effect but keep the colour on that bandana. And it just, they did it in a movie called Pleasantville. Someone went into a TV show, an old 60s TV show, which was black and white, and slowly as people's emotions came to life, they turned into colour, which is quite a great visual imagery. So this has now become known as the Pleasantville effect, where you have black and white with hints of colour in it. And I just thought, again, especially in the music video, where you've got lots of different ideas and Fantasyland things happening, it just adds to the visual imagery. It just gives another layer to the story.
Oh, I do like to be beside the seaside. Oh, I do like to be.
Of course, obviously being in a church, one of the items in the church is the font. It reminded me of some very classic shots of when fonts have been in quite famous movies where the vicar or someone looks into the font and you have that classic shot of the camera. And it looks like the camera's in the water looking up at the subject matter as the finger comes in and dips his finger in the holy water and so forth. So I wanted a shot like that. Now obviously if you look at the screen, we have Jinian walks up to the font, and then there's the shot of the camera in the water looking up at Jinian, and then he puts his finger in the water, and then you get that lovely wobbly effect over his face. Now of course obviously cameras are quite expensive, and we're on a bit of a tight budget and a schedule, so that was achieved with the aid of a mirror and a Pyrex dish with some water in it. So what we did was we had a mirror sitting on a table and the Pyrex bowl on top of that with some water in it. Jinian would step up and look into the bowl, and his reflection would look back at him. So the camera was at the opposite side of Jinian, looking down at the bowl, and all the camera did was get Jinian's reflection. I mean, if I had any other qualm, personally, I would have liked to have had a slightly larger Pyrex dish, but I found it quite difficult at the 11th hour to find a Pyrex dish that didn't have Pyrex or some name emblazed at the bottom. So to find a Pyrex dish with just flat glass, unfortunately I was restricted with the size of the bowl. But in the end I think it works reasonably well. Not too bad. We kept the shot as short as possible just to get that little wobbly effect of the water, and yes, I think it works quite well. The main theme of the album is apocalypse and the aftermath of an apocalypse, and because The Pool, even though it's quite a melancholy song, it has got an underlying thread of hope that runs through it. So what we were trying to convey was this lone man looking back at some old cine film of his band members and reminiscing, you know, which evokes happiness and sadness at the same time. And then at the end of the song, he makes a choice to step out of the apocalyptic world through a magic door into his next life, may it be whatever that may be. Jinian walking out. There's our crow for the sign of the crow.
Don't be afraid if you reveal.
And then basically this is the crow showing Jinian a magic doorway into the new world after this apocalyptic world's been destroyed. And the door there is the same door that's on the cover of the album of Sign of the Crow. So it's all meant to mean something, and of course for this song as well. And also, we are doing a prog rock video. There's no point in being prog rocky if you can't be a little bit heavy, man, and a bit cool. And it's quite funky.
I can't remember when we put the band together. There was a point in, I believe, in the 80s where we started, and we kind of originally started as a kind of instrumental jazz stroke rock band, and then before long I realised that I really wanted to play songs, and so we started to turn into a pretty straight ahead rock band, which is where we've been since. The band is very much works very collaboratively. We do team writing. There's a team of 3 of us involved in the writing at the moment, and the band work very much together as a unit. During the whole time of the evolution of technology during these last years, you can do more and more on your own, And the more that's become possible, the less I've enjoyed it. And actually what I really like is working with other people, and I really like working with these people. The David Cross Band are a great crew, great to work with, and I want more of it.
Into the pool, deep and dark, all day. Into the pool, all alone, all alone. And if you need a friend, my friend, you know I'll be your guiding light into the night under a stone, feeling alone. Guess who in the world waits for into the pool? Sure, you'll find your way into the pool in a dream, in your dreams. So many rested here before, and no one cares what they leave behind. All in the mind, out of your shell, into the well. Guess who in the world waits for you? into the pool. How you long to stray into the pool, all in flow, undertow. Don't be afraid if you reveal a foreign face and a stranger's heart falling apart out of the blue into the new. Guess who in the world waits for you?
We were there filming between 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock, but like all filming projects, we got in at 10, but by the time we set up and the cameras were rolling, it's more like 11:30. But we didn't do too badly. We got everything we needed in the can by about 20 past 2, and then we got outside to film the last couple of shots against the green screen with Ginian outside the church, and then I believe we were all done by about 3 o'clock on the dot, which was quite unusual. And of course there's a special member of the team who we have to mention, an additional cameraman who, without him the project would never have happened, and that is my dear friend Howard.
Despite the weather, it was a memorable day, and my thanks go to Mark for allowing us access to his final edit. And what more is there to say, except I'll see you on the other side.
Into the pool.